rare tsunami warning for a time from Santa Cruz all the way up to Oregon. Mass evacuations on Highway 1, people moving away from the coast.
What if one day Florida's sun-soaked beaches, packed with families and surfers, suddenly emptied without warning?
This is the storm of the century.
Mass evacuations ordered, prompting bumper-to-bumper traffic on highways out of town.
Authorities sealed off the coast after a mysterious underwater discovery sparked questions and fears.
Good morning, Michael. We are less than 48 hours from a second major landfalling hurricane on the Gulf Coast of Florida. I'm in downtown Tampa. This is the convention center. You can see that water. It looks 10 to 12 feet down that seawall.
What did they find beneath the waves that left experts on edge? Could it be signs of a long-forgotten tsunami threat, a hidden geological fault, or even an underwater landslide waiting to strike? Florida's tsunami secrets. While often overlooked, the history of Florida's encounters with tsunamis provides a fascinating glimpse into the region's geological vulnerabilities. Among the most notable events is the tsunami triggered by the powerful earthquake that struck Lisbon, Portugal, in the mid-18th century. This seismic event, one of the most devastating in recorded history, occurred on the 1st of November 1755, and its impact was felt across the Atlantic. In Lisbon, the earthquake caused immense destruction, leveling buildings and igniting fires that ravaged the city. The tremor displaced massive amounts of water in the Atlantic Ocean, generating a tsunami that traveled thousands of miles. Approximately 7 hours later, this wave reached Florida's shores. Florida's coastline was sparsely populated at that time, leaving few witnesses to document the effects. However, historical accounts from other parts of the Atlantic basin suggest that the waves were significant, capable of causing considerable damage if they had struck a more densely inhabited area. The lack of detailed records from Florida underscores how little was understood about such phenomena during that era. This event is a clear warning of how interconnected distant geological events can be, even across vast oceans. Fast forward to the 19th century, another seismic event brought the threat of tsunamis closer to home. In 1886, an earthquake shook Charleston, South Carolina, marking one of the most powerful quakes to hit the southeastern United States. The earthquake caused widespread destruction in Charleston, collapsing buildings and leaving residents in shock. Yet the tremor's impact extended beyond the city itself. Reports emerged of sudden waves along the rivers and coastline, accompanied by rumbling noises that puzzled observers. These phenomena hinted at a small tsunami, likely generated by water displacement during the quake. Although this event did not reach the scale of the Lisbon tsunami, it provided the first documented instance of a tsunami-like effect on the U.S. East Coast. Observers at the time lacked the scientific knowledge to fully understand or explain what they were witnessing. Still, the incident offered early evidence that even regions not traditionally associated with seismic activity could experience the ripple effects of geological disturbances. For Florida, this earthquake underscored the reality that the Atlantic Ocean, often viewed as calm compared to the Pacific's volatile ring of fire, holds its own potential for surprise. These historical precedents reveal an important truth about Florida's vulnerability to tsunamis. While rare, the possibility is not merely hypothetical. The Sunshine State's geographical position, with its proximity to the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean, places it at the crossroads of potential seismic and underwater disturbances. Each of these past events, whether a distant earthquake in Europe or a regional tremor in South Carolina, illustrates how interconnected the forces of nature truly are. When reflecting on these events, it becomes clear that the knowledge available at the time was insufficient to prepare for or mitigate such risks. The lack of advanced warning systems, coupled with a limited understanding of oceanic processes, left coastal communities unprotected against the unexpected forces of nature. Today, while technology has advanced significantly, the lessons from these historical events remain relevant. They stress the significance of vigilance and preparedness, even in regions where tsunamis are considered unlikely. After watching the history, you might wonder, how could an event thousands of miles away in Lisbon generate waves capable of crossing the Atlantic? The answer lies in the immense power of seismic energy and its ability to displace massive volumes of water. This energy travels outward in all directions, with the waves maintaining their momentum over vast distances. Similarly, the Charleston earthquake, though smaller in scale, demonstrated how even localized geological activity can have far-reaching effects. Florida's limited historical experience with tsunamis underscores the need for ongoing research and preparedness. It raises a critical question. If such events occurred in the past, what are the chances they might happen again? Moreover, with Florida's population and infrastructure now concentrated along its vulnerable coastlines, how much more devastating could the consequences be? What are the modern scenarios that could trigger a tsunami? Florida's coastal threats. Florida, often associated with its serene beaches and balmy weather, harbors a geological reality that many might not consider: the potential for tsunamis. While such events are rare, their devastating impact could leave an indelible mark on the Sunshine State's coastline. Scientists, including the late George Mall, a renowned oceanographer and tsunami expert at the Florida Institute of Technology, have long cautioned against dismissing the possibility. His warnings about inevitable tsunamis in Florida and the Caribbean remain relevant today, especially in light of the modern understanding of underwater landslides and distant seismic activity. One of the most intriguing potential threats to Florida comes from underwater landslides. These occur when sediments or rock on the sea floor become destabilized, often along steep slopes, and collapse under the influence of gravity. The resulting displacement of massive volumes of water can generate localized tsunamis capable of traveling significant distances. The steep slopes along the continental shelf off the U.S. East Coast and in the Caribbean present notable risk areas for such occurrences. Although these events happen on timescales of hundreds of thousands of years, their rarity does not diminish their potential impact. The possibility of an underwater landslide affecting Florida's coastline is not just theoretical. Geological studies have identified the instability of certain regions of the Atlantic seafloor, making the scenario plausible under the right conditions. A sudden collapse in such an area could unleash a tsunami traveling as fast as a jetliner, reaching Florida's shores within hours. While the likelihood remains extremely low, the consequences would be catastrophic, especially given the state's dense coastal population and critical infrastructure, such as Port Canaveral. Emergency response protocols tailored for hurricanes and other maritime incidents may not adequately address the unique challenges posed by tsunamis. As noted by Denise Velia-Lusoga, an assistant professor in the Department of Ocean Engineering and Marine Sciences at the Florida Institute of Technology. Despite their infrequency, scientists emphasize the importance of preparing for tsunamis. Mall's decades-long efforts to sound the alarm highlight the need for a proactive approach. His concern was not just for the physical destruction that such events could bring, but also for the loss of human lives, particularly in areas like ports where cruise ships and other vessels might be docked. These floating giants, full of passengers, could become deadly hazards in the event of a tsunami. Another potential threat comes from distant seismic events. Earthquakes along the mid-Atlantic ridge or near the Azores Islands can generate tsunamis that could make their way toward Florida. While waves from such events would likely lose much of their energy before reaching the state, the impact would depend on various factors, including the magnitude of the earthquake and the depth of its origin. History provides examples of distant earthquakes triggering tsunamis with far-reaching consequences, such as the Lisbon earthquake in the 18th century. Recent research and modeling have shown that an extreme event, such as a powerful earthquake or a volcanic eruption, could produce a mega tsunami capable of overwhelming Florida's coastline within hours. This possibility raises critical questions about the state's readiness to respond to such an event. State emergency managers and geologists agree that while the overall risk is low, the high stakes demand attention. The debate within the scientific community over the severity of these risks reflects the issue's complexity. Some experts, like Velia-Lusoga, remain skeptical of the extent to which a tsunami generated far away could maintain its destructive power by the time it reaches Florida's shores. She has pointed out that energy dissipation over such long distances often reduces wave heights, mitigating the potential for widespread damage. However, this does not negate the possibility of localized flooding and disruption, particularly in low-lying coastal areas. Public awareness and preparedness remain key to mitigating the potential consequences of a tsunami. Mall consistently advocated for better warning systems and increased education about the risks, emphasizing that even a small wave can carry immense energy, causing severe damage to coastal structures and posing a danger to human life. He often reminded authorities that tsunamis, unlike hurricanes, allow little time for evacuation once a warning is issued. This reality makes swift and decisive action critical in an impending wave. The potential for tsunamis to impact Florida, whether through underwater landslides or distant seismic events, underscores the need for vigilance. While technology and scientific understanding have advanced considerably since MAL first began raising awareness, questions remain about whether these tools can address the unique challenges posed by such rare but extreme natural disasters. The volcano that could collapse. Among the more dramatic scenarios researchers pose is the potential collapse of the Cumbre Vieja volcano on La Palma in the Canary Islands. The prospect of a volcanic eruption leading to an immense landslide and subsequent tsunami is a hypothesis that has captured scientific and public imagination. While the likelihood of such an event remains a topic of intense debate, the implications are undoubtedly sobering, particularly for regions like Florida. In the early 2000s, Simon Day from the Benfield Gregg Hazard Research Center at University College London and Stephen Ward from the University of California conducted groundbreaking research on this scenario. They proposed that a major eruption of Cumbre Vieja could cause a significant portion of the volcano's western flank to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean. Using advanced models, Ward suggested that this collapse could generate waves towering over 1,000 meters near the island. As these waves radiate outward, they would lose energy but could still reach Florida's coast with considerable force, arriving in approximately 8 hours with heights ranging from 30 to 80 feet. This hypothesis, though alarming, was built on worst-case assumptions, and the scientific community remains divided over its plausibility. George Mall expressed skepticism about the potential impact of such a collapse on Florida. He argued that by the time the waves traveled thousands of miles across the Atlantic, their height would diminish significantly, likely leaving them at only a few inches when they reached the state's shores. Subsequent studies supported Mall's critique, suggesting that the initial collapse might produce a localized mega-tsunami near the Canary Islands, but its effects would likely dissipate before reaching distant coastlines. These studies highlight the importance of re-examining early models with updated geological data. Though steep and potentially unstable, the western slope of Cumbre Vieja may not be as close to collapse as once thought. Researchers have noted that the geological processes required to trigger such an event are complex and involve multiple factors, including the volume of volcanic material, the steepness of the slope, and the magnitude of the eruption. While the possibility remains, the timeline for such an occurrence may extend far into the future, providing ample time for continued monitoring and preparedness. Nevertheless, even the faint possibility of a mega tsunami originating from La Palma underscores the interconnectedness of global geological systems. It also highlights the need for Florida to remain vigilant, given its geographical vulnerability. While the Cumbre Vieja scenario has garnered significant attention, it is not the only volcanic threat worth considering. Volcanic activity in the Caribbean, particularly on islands such as Montserrat and St. Vincent, could pose a risk. These regions, known for their active volcanoes, could experience flank collapses or release fast-moving volcanic gases, ash, and rocks, potentially displacing large volumes of water and generating localized tsunamis. Though these events are rare, they serve as reminders of the dynamic forces shaping the region. The scientific debate surrounding the Cumbre Vieja hypothesis reflects the broader uncertainties inherent in predicting geological phenomena. While researchers acknowledge the low probability of such an event, the potential consequences demand attention. Models predicting extreme scenarios may not materialize as feared, but they provide valuable insights into the need for preparedness. For Florida, this means developing robust warning systems and enhancing public awareness of the risks associated with tsunamis. Despite the skepticism surrounding the Cumbre Vieja collapse, the scenario is a powerful reminder of nature's capacity for upheaval. It challenges us to consider the unanticipated and to plan for events that might seem improbable, but could have devastating outcomes. Florida's experience with tsunamis, though limited, underscores the necessity of vigilance in the face of uncertainty. If even a fraction of the energy predicted by early models were to reach Florida's shores, the impact could be far-reaching, affecting lives, property, and infrastructure. As we move forward, we need an answer to one critical question. What lessons can we draw from history and modern science to ensure Florida is prepared for the unpredictable forces of the ocean? Is Florida ready to face it? Florida's preparedness for tsunamis reflects a state that has long prioritized hurricane resilience, but has not yet fully adapted its emergency systems to address the unique challenges of a tsunami. Although the probability of such an event remains low, the potential consequences demand serious attention. As George Mall repeatedly warned during his career, it is not a question of if a tsunami could strike Florida, but when and whether the state will be ready when it does. Florida's existing emergency response protocols are well developed for hurricanes, a recurring regional threat. These systems include robust evacuation plans, infrastructure reinforcement, and detailed communication strategies. However, tsunamis present a fundamentally different challenge. Unlike hurricanes, which provide days of advance warning, tsunamis can strike with only hours or even minutes of notice, requiring a swift and decisive response. Despite this, current protocols are not specifically designed for tsunami scenarios, leaving significant gaps in preparedness. Only a few Florida communities have taken proactive steps toward tsunami readiness. Indian Harbor Beach and Indian River County have been designated as tsunami ready by the National Weather Service, a recognition that reflects special training, the installation of warning sirens, and the implementation of drills. These efforts are commendable, but remain limited in scope, covering only a fraction of Florida's expansive coastline. For a state with millions of residents living near the coast and a thriving tourism industry that attracts visitors to its beaches, a more comprehensive approach is essential. The Florida Division of Emergency Management acknowledges that the likelihood of a tsunami impacting the state is extremely low due to the lack of significant seismic activity near Florida. However, this low probability is not equivalent to zero risk. The division highlights that certain scenarios, such as submarine landslides or distant earthquakes, could still generate tsunamis capable of affecting Florida's coastline. These events are rare, but their potential impact, ranging from loss of life to billions of dollars in property damage, underscores the importance of taking them seriously. Historical events highlight the risks Florida faces. The Lisbon earthquake of 1755 generated a tsunami that reached Florida in 7 hours, though sparse population left its effects largely unrecorded. Mall warned that a similar event today could devastate areas like Brevard, with 5-foot waves damaging properties, Port Canaveral ships, and endangering lives. An estimated 8-hour warning would require swift communication and evacuation. Other scenarios present even greater challenges due to shorter warning times. A major earthquake in the ocean trench north of Puerto Rico, for example, could generate waves reaching Florida's coast within 3 hours. Such a tsunami, though smaller in height compared to the Lisbon scenario, could still cause significant flooding, especially in low-lying areas like Patrick Space Force Base and the Kennedy Space Center. The physical characteristics of Florida's coastline add another layer of complexity. The state's low elevation, coupled with the presence of barrier islands, makes coastal communities particularly susceptible to flooding. Exposure to local and distant tsunami sources, as well as factors like ocean depth and land elevation, further amplify the risk. Studies have shown that submarine landslides along the western Great Bahama Bank, as well as potential collapses of volcanic slopes in the Canary Islands, could generate hazardous tsunami waves that reach Florida. Efforts to improve Florida's tsunami readiness have been limited, in part due to the perception that tsunamis are primarily a threat to regions along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Indeed, analyzing the past 150 years of tsunami records reveals that the most destructive events in the United States have occurred along the Pacific coast, including in Alaska, Hawaii, California, Oregon, and Washington. However, the Atlantic Ocean is not immune to such phenomena. Landslide-generated tsunamis in particular pose a unique threat due to the geological features of the region. The uneven state of tsunami preparedness in Florida raises important questions about the priorities of disaster management. While hurricanes dominate emergency planning efforts, tsunamis require a different set of strategies. Florida's current systems for handling tsunamis, though a step in the right direction, are insufficient given the state's vulnerability. As experts have pointed out, the high potential impact of even a single event warrants a more comprehensive approach to preparedness. The question now becomes, how can Florida bridge the gap between its existing systems and the unique demands of tsunami resilience? Addressing this will require not only scientific innovation, but also a commitment to public awareness and investment in infrastructure. The state must be ready for the unpredictable forces of nature, no matter how unlikely they may seem. The strange ocean events. While Florida is not traditionally associated with tsunamis, the state has experienced other wave-related phenomena that offer a glimpse into the unpredictable power of the ocean. These lesser-known events, though distinct from true tsunamis, demonstrate the dynamic forces at play along Florida's coastline and serve as reminders of the ocean's capacity to surprise. One such phenomenon is the tsunami, a wave generated not by seismic activity, but by sudden changes in atmospheric pressure. These events occur when rapid shifts in pressure create disturbances on the water's surface, resulting in waves that can resemble tsunamis. Florida, with its unique geographical position and susceptibility to weather extremes, occasionally experiences these rare occurrences. In 1992, Daytona Beach witnessed the startling impact of a tsunami. Just before midnight on July 3rd, an unexpected wave surged onto the shore, reaching heights of 9 feet or more. The event caused significant damage, injuring 20 people and leaving 100 cars battered in its wake. At the time, geologists suspected an underwater landslide as the culprit, but later investigations linked the wave to a series of intense thunderstorms off the Georgia coast. More recently, in 2023, Clearwater Beach experienced another tsunami originating in the Gulf of Mexico. Unlike the dramatic event in Daytona Beach, this wave likely passed unnoticed by those on shore, its presence subtle but no less indicative of the ocean's unpredictable nature. Rogue waves, another mysterious ocean phenomenon, add to the list of potential hazards along Florida's shores. These sudden, towering waves appear seemingly out of nowhere, often catching beachgoers and boaters off guard. While not caused by atmospheric or seismic activity, rogue waves result from the complex interplay of wind, currents, and tides. Their unpredictability makes them particularly dangerous, as they can strike without warning and cause significant damage. Rogue waves have been reported in Florida waters on several occasions, underscoring the state's vulnerability to unexpected oceanic events. These waves, though distinct from tsunamis or traditional tsunamis, are a clear warning of the ocean's capacity for abrupt and sometimes violent behavior. The sudden rise of a rogue wave towering over nearby waters is a striking testament to the power of natural forces at work beneath the surface. These events, whether tsunamis or rogue waves, remind us that Florida's coastline, while often tranquil, is not immune to the unpredictable whims of nature. While they may not carry the same destructive potential as a full-scale tsunami, their ability to cause harm and disrupt coastal life is undeniable. They also emphasize the need for awareness and preparedness, even for phenomena that occur rarely or with limited impact. The study of these lesser-known events also offers valuable insights into broader patterns of ocean behavior. Understanding the conditions that lead to tsunamis, for instance, can help scientists refine models and improve forecasting systems, reducing the risk of surprise. Florida's vulnerability to such phenomena is compounded by its low-lying geography and densely populated coastline. Barrier islands, which provide natural protection against storms, can also amplify the effects of sudden waves. The state's extensive tourism industry, with millions of visitors flocking to its beaches each year, further underscores the importance of understanding and addressing these risks. Even a small wave arriving without warning can cause chaos in crowded areas, highlighting the need for vigilance and preparedness. While tsunamis and rogue waves are rare, their occurrence serves as a reminder of the ocean's unpredictable power. They challenge the perception of Florida's waters as calm and controlled, revealing the hidden forces that occasionally rise to the surface. These events, though less dramatic than the hypothetical scenarios involving distant tsunamis or underwater landslides, are no less important in understanding the risks faced by coastal communities. The ocean, vast and mysterious, holds many secrets yet to be uncovered. Whether through the study of tsunamis, tsunamis, or rogue waves, each discovery brings us closer to safeguarding the delicate balance between humanity and the natural world. As Florida continues to grow and evolve, so too must its strategies for facing the challenges posed by the ever-changing forces of the ocean. The idea of an underwater landslide triggering a tsunami that reaches Florida's coast is both fascinating and unsettling. With so many unknowns about the forces hiding beneath the ocean, how prepared do you think Florida truly is for such an event? Could the state's hurricane plans be enough to handle a sudden tsunami? Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. And if you enjoyed exploring this mystery, subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss a new video.